Hello Wolfpack, Bitcoin is still within the ascending channel formation, which obviously is a pattern of exhaustion, and we've seen descending volume throughout the entirety of that formation. Now that Bitcoin's coming down to the bottom side of this formation, we can see that, well, it's bouncing a little bit, right? And if we look at something like the 4-hourly chart, which we'll look into a bit more extensively in a second here, we can see that decision time is coming within the next 48 hours, and I guess that's kind of a topic of this video. There will be a decision that needs to be made here on Bitcoin, and by a decision I mean a place in which the price needs to decide the next short-term trend direction within the next 48 hours, and that's due to a line here, which we're going to look at in a second. But ultimately, the daily chart is the first topic of analysis, and along with the daily chart, we're looking at the daily chart on a macro time frame. So, macro time frame, we talked about this yesterday in a video. Right now, Bitcoin is following what it did in 2018 quite precisely, okay? In 2018, we jumped above bull market support band. This would constitute the jump above the bull market support band where I'm circling. We dropped back down below, retested the support line. We're retesting the support line right now. We'll probably see, let me just remove this fractal here because it's actually incorrect. We'll probably see one more jump back up to the bull market support band before dropping below the line, okay? So one more jump up, back up to the bull market support band, which is currently at 42K, which we're kind of at right now almost. So another 1K upwards most likely, and then drop below the uptrending line there on Bitcoin, and then do something like this and crash downwards. Okay, so that's what we're looking at from a macro scale. That's what's suggested, at least on the macro chart. So one more little pump up to the bull market support band. Where is the bull market support band? Well, it's at basically 43K, 44K. A little bit below that, you know, somewhere in that region. It's kind of hard to say. If we look at the weekly chart, we can get a better view. Let's actually look at that right now. I will bring it up here. We can see the bull market support band is currently at 43K. Okay, so the macro picture suggests Bitcoin jumps up to 43K before going downwards and crashing below this ascending channel formation. Okay, and then possibly retesting this lower dotted trend line. That would be the next target after we do that. And so going into the weekend, you know, it wouldn't be surprising at all if we do see that swing upwards, as I just said, and that swing upwards would come in form on this 4-hourly chart. Now, the 4-hourly chart's interesting right now because, well, the 4-hourly chart is showing there is a downtrending resistance line that we're testing currently. And, you know, we might see one more swing downwards and retest the support line, but ultimately we are expecting this line to break upwards, and we expect to go, as I said, to the bull market support band at around 43K, retest that, and then come back down to that line and ultimately most likely break through to the downside at that point. Okay, so basically I would expect one last short-term swing, go to like 43K, 43.5K, and then crash downwards below this line to the lower dotted line, and then we can make a decision on the next move once we get to that lower dotted line, okay? That's what I would expect to be the most likely scenario right now. With that said, I think that, you know, 43K is only 2K away, which is only a 5% move away. At this point, it's getting really risky. I wouldn't be necessarily jumping into any, you know, trades at this point because, you know, it's a very small move. And so who's to say we just skip it completely and just go downwards, you know? There's no real indication as to you know, why we wouldn't do that. I would say this is the most likely move, like I said, 43K and then downwards, but, you know, honestly, we're in a consolidation structure at the bottom of a support line. You know, we could very well just drop downwards. So it's one of those situations where there's not really too much evidence to support either argument. We're kind of just making an educated guess, right? I suppose that's what TA is, but it's especially clear in this scenario here. So looking at something like the weekly chart, what we can see about Bitcoin is that the reason why this support line on the ascending channel formation is taking so long to break down is because, well, it's literally right on top of the Ichimoku cloud. And the weekly chart Ichimoku cloud is a very major support line. So, you know, it's not surprising to me in the slightest that it's taking so long to break down. I mean, that kind of makes sense. And then looking at something like the total cryptocurrency market cap, you know, that's still above support as well. We have a major uptrending support line, this yellow line here. That's held for an extended period of time here. We haven't closed below that line on a daily candle basically at all, aside from one deviation. And, you know, we could just adjust that line there to make that deviation not present. In fact, if we just did this, right, you can see the deviation goes away, but I've tried to line it up as best as possible. And what we can see is that when that line breaks, which it will break, right, most likely will break, and that's going to happen when Bitcoin breaks down below this channel. We'll see that, you know, in conjunction, the total cryptocurrency market cap will break down as well. You know, that will lead to a pretty negative time in the market. And we're expecting that to happen within the month, right? Probably within April, and maybe, as I said, and I've been saying this since February. I said probably within April we're going to see, a retest of the original lows. So on Bitcoin, a retest of original lows at 34K, 33K. You know, that would be happening within April, if not April, probably early May, right? We've expected this for a while now, and it's just played out perfectly as expected, right? Because essentially, when we were down here, we said one more swing to the top. We swung to the top, and then we said we're going to go down to 40k within a couple of weeks. That happened perfectly, and now we're just making new predictions. So it's going pretty well so far. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is the DXY, because the DXY has had a bearish engulfing candle with a long wick to the upside here, and so it wouldn't be irrational to assume that the DXY will be entering a short-term downwards trend. That's assuming TA works in the DXY, which in reality it really doesn't. And then at the same time, and this kind of goes hand in hand, you've seen the S&P 500 have a pretty strong bullish engulfing candle there. That would suggest we come up to another retest of 4,500, which again would give Bitcoin the positive momentum it might need to swing upwards to 43.5k or 43k flat. That there will be the positive, reassurance coming through from traditional markets to facilitate this move from Bitcoin. So I would expect that we see within the next 48 hours, Bitcoin break upwards a little bit, come back up to 43.5k or 43k, and then reject downwards. And that should all be happening within the next week or so. But yeah, I think that a lot of people are going to get bullish again on that little bounce, and that's going to be the last little jump for Bitcoin before everyone gets flushed out. Now, I do have to say this because, it is certainly a possibility. I don't think it's likely, but, everything's possible. In order for Bitcoin to be bullish again, I mean, actually bullish, like, I wouldn't say macro bullish, but at least medium-term bullish, what we need to be seeing on Bitcoin is a break above the 200-day SMA, right? The 200-day is very important. That's currently at 48k. It's a little bit far away to talk about. If we get closer to that, we'll start talking about it again, but I honestly doubt we will. So let's see what happens there. 43k to 43.5k is what I'm looking at for the next few days there. And then obviously, if we don't see that little swing upwards, what I'm looking at is this uptrending support line, because at the end of the day, I'm predicting a 5% move. It's not really a major prediction. So I would say you need to act like it's going to go down regardless. We could see a little upswing here, but I think ultimately the direction is very much downwards. And if we do see this upswing here, remember, if we do go to 43.5k to 43k, that's actually macro bearish, because it means that we're still following the fractal from 2018 bear market. So realistically, if you in a way, it'd almost be kind of more bullish if we just broke downwards, because at least we'll see a deviation from 2018 bear market. Because if we keep following the 2018 bear market, look where it ended up, right? We ended up dropping 50% in a month. So, we need to see some deviation. But ultimately, that's what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.